Hello, Deep Dive sports fans. It's David, and welcome back to another episode of What Happened To. I know that it's been, a year since we last did a YouTube video?
Has it
And,
been that long, man?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Damn.
been that long. Um, but we're back. We're excited to talk about this one. Um, and especially it's one of our kind of like favorite Indians players. One of, not the one, but definitely one of. Grady Sizemore,
Yeah.
who is, in our opinion, one of the biggest what ifs in recent MLB history, I'd say.
I think that's pretty fair to say.
Yeah, there's some who might throw, what's that guy's name from Texas, who was kind of big in the mid 2000s to early 2010s. Was it Josh Anderson?
Oh yeah,
It was Josh something. I forget his name.
yeah. Josh Hamilton.
Hamilton. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. He definitely made it big for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of all fell apart for him when he went to the Angels, but um, yeah. With him, I think the moment that really sticks out to everyone is the home run derby at Yankee Stadium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But we're not here to talk about Josh Hamilton. We're here to talk about
Exactly.
Grady Sizemore.
Definitely the biggest what if in MLB history, but also definitely in Cleveland Indians history. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I'm going to hand it off to Dom, who's here with me today on this episode, to kind
Am
of
I?
kick things off.
Okay, so Grady Sizemore, born on August 2nd, 1982, in the great city of Seattle, Washington. Graduated from Cascade High School in 2000. Um, he intended to play both football and baseball at the University of Washington. However, things did not things did change for him, and we will get into that in a little bit. But yeah, he got into baseball. It's kind of just always something that he's kind of interested in. There's really no like defining moments like I want to pursue this as a career. It's kind of just
Mm-hmm.
something that he's always wanted to do. But he was a multi-sport athlete in high school, played baseball, basketball, and football. He set school records with the football team. He was the team's leading rusher. I don't know if the record still stands. I'm pretty sure that information is a little hard to find, but he did previously have the record for all-time rushing yards with 3,081. It's pretty damn impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think it was definitely, if I remember correctly, at the time it was the record. I think it may have been beaten, but it was a little hard to find.
yeah, but yeah, with just his natural athletic ability, I think him and everyone that was in his life at the time definitely saw early on the makings of something that definitely could be special in really any sport that he wanted to really pursue. I feel like just with his natural ability, he probably could have been successful at really any sport that he wanted to play.
Mm-hmm. Now, the main reason why he didn't necessarily go to the University of Washington, like we had mentioned, because he did sign a letter of intent at the time, but he was originally drafted by the Montreal Expos in the third round of the 2000 Major League Draft, and despite signing that letter of intent to play football and baseball at the University of Washington, Sizemore instead decided to sign a $2 million signing bonus to play for the Expos in their minor league system, which is where he would stay until he had gotten traded to Cleveland in 2002. Now, that trade that I mentioned occurred on June 27th, 2002. The Montreal Expos had traded Sizemore along with Cliff Lee, Brandon Phillips, and Lee Stevens to the Cleveland Indians. In return, the Expos had received Bartolo Colon and Tim Drew, in which I think that the Cleveland Indians kind of won that trade in a sense. Um, while Colon was still a really good player at the time, the Indians got a future Cy Young Award winner in Cliff Lee and Sizemore as well, who would go on to become one of the game's brightest stars. Not to mention Brandon Phillips, who in his own right
Yeah.
was a several time All Star, if I could speak English properly, in his own right, for that matter, for the Cincinnati Reds, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was always a guy that I think was good with us.
Mm-hmm.
I think we let him go a little too soon, and he really hit his peak with Cincinnati, and that kind of really hurt to see.
Mm-hmm. So.
But I mean, the reason why we're talking about Grady Sizemore is because of how special he was as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we can bring up his baseball reference page, and you could see, in 2006, 2007, it was really his peak. Um, there was a stretch where he was it one, two, three, 4 years in a row where he had over 20 home runs,
Mm-hmm.
um, ton of stolen bases, getting on base all the time, RBIs through the roof, Gold Glover. I mean, this guy was, you know, All Star 3 years in a row, really early in his career too. And someone to have the amount of success that he was having early in his career, people were beyond excited for what he could be.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was really turning into I think, one of the game's best young players. So
Mm-hmm. He
I
definitely was.
remember, yeah, oh, absolutely. So just for some fun Grady Sizemore moments here, April 18th, 2009, he doubled and homered in a 14 run.
Second inning.
Yeah, I can read here. So the second inning, Indians scored 14 runs, in which Sizemore both doubled and homered. In the third game ever at Yankee Stadium. I remember that game. I mean, we won like
Mm-hmm.
what 20? It was like 21-4 or something like that.
Something like that.
Just love to just beat the hell out of the Yankees, especially in their own ballpark.
And it was the brand new
Especially
stadium
when
too.
it was a new stadium, and that was the year those darn Yankees ended up winning the World Series. But you know what?
Mm.
We beat them that one game, and
I think we
what
won
made me
that
feel a little bit
series
better.
too. It was the very first
Yeah,
series that they had at Yankee Stadium, and I think we won 2 out of 3.
yeah, and that was Cece's first year in New York, which made it a little bit sweeter for me because Cece was always one of my favorites growing up. Um,
Well, let's be fair here. It wasn't necessarily his fault that he got there.
I mean, he signed there as a free agent. He
Best
chose to go
offer,
there.
but
He chose to go there. He could have said no. Either way, we're here to talk about Grady Sizemore.
yeah,
Um,
we'll save CC
so like I
Sabathia for
mentioned,
another day.
yeah. Um, so like I mentioned, early success in his career. By the time he was 26 years old, he was already a three-time All-Star and won the Gold Glove two times. And this is a guy that didn't even hit his peak yet.
Mm,
He's the same age as Robinson Cano, who joined Major League Baseball actually a year before Cano did.
mm,
But they're the same age. I mean, we remember how long of a career Cano had. Just imagine if injuries didn't,
mm,
really get the best of Sizemore, what he could have been. He's also the same rookie class as Zach Greinke, who's still pitching.
mm-hmm.
He's still, don't know how, but he's still there.
Yep.
Um, at, at 22, he became a full-time starter, and the very next year, just 23 years old, he started receiving MVP votes for just how unbelievable he was playing. And at the age of 24, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, just highlighting the excitement that was, starting to really surround Sizemore and what he could possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
Through the 2008 season, in his first 4 years in Major League Baseball, his WAR was at 27, which, if you look at historical rankings, he's in the top 20 for players between the age of 22 and 25. I think that speaks volumes to the
Mm,
quality of player that he was.
yeah.
2005 to 2008, Sizemore had an on base percentage of 372, hit between 20 to 30 home runs, had a 496 slugging, and had 115 steals. I think that's a part of his game that people kind of miss because everyone remembers, the exciting plays in the outfield, the Gold Gloves, and all that. And yeah, 115 steals in 3 years or 4 year span. That's impressive. And by the age of 29, he was definitely at the peak of his powers. He was definitely one of the game's best players. And offshoot question here: what made him so special in Cleveland? He was definitely not just a fan favorite. I think everyone that was a fan of the Indians and baseball
Mm-hmm.
was a fan of Sizemore, but he was particularly popular with the ladies. Um,
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you look back at some of those pictures, you can kind of see why. Let's be honest.
Anyways, where did he go immediately following his time in Cleveland? So he left the Indians in 2011. Injuries had really started to take their toll on him. I mean, 2000 and 2007 he played all 162. 2008 played 157. 2009 he played 106.
Mm,
Then 2010 he only played 33 games. Then 2011 only 71. Then he actually didn't play for 2 years. He didn't play in 2012 or 2013 due to injuries. But he would resurface with the Boston Red Sox and the Phillies in 2014. Um, but I mean, you could just tell that injuries had gotten the best of him, and he really wasn't the player that he was. In 2014, I think he had a combined WAR of 0.2. His batting average was like 230s. Just the magic seemed to have been lost. In 2015, the Phillies would bring him back, but he got off to a pretty bad start with a negative zero point 0.6 WAR and would be released by the team and was picked up by the Rays, where he would finish out the season. But that would be the end of his playing career.
mm,
2015 with the Rays. But now he's he got into coaching soon after ending his career. And after the White Sox fired their manager this year, he took over as interim manager. And I think prior to that, he first got into coaching in 2022 with the Diamondbacks, um, as the with the assistance of his friend Josh Barfield, who I think we all remember
mm,
from his time with the major leagues. Um, yeah, and then in 2024, both Sizemore and Barfield joined the coaching staff of the White Sox, and he took over to interim manager on August 8th when they fired their manager Pedro Grifol. And we'll see what the future holds for him. But I think he's got a he's young enough to be a manager for a long time, and
mm,
I think the White Sox really responded to him when he took over as interim manager. So I think he's got a bright future as a manager. I'm
mm.
sure he'll resurface somewhere.
Yes, definitely. Definitely young enough to be something excellent on that coaching staff. And definitely, even if he doesn't have success in Chicago, he could find something elsewhere and be successful there as well. And kind of moving on to the the main chunk of why we kind of created this episode, outside of the what happened to, is the what if section. Honestly, what made him the biggest what if in the Cleveland Indians uh, kind of like history, I guess you could put it. And in my opinion, I think it was the fact that kind of like in the mid 2000s, they were kind of the front office was trying to kind of regroup and try and create and replicate the success of the 90s and the kind of like powerhouse that we had during that time. And so he kind of was the Kenny Lofton of a main chunk of our lives, really.
Yeah, I mean, almost 30. Oh my God. But I remember
Yeah.
um I really got into I started playing baseball. It was like I was 3 years old, so like 98.
Mm,
Um but yeah, for me, like toward the end of Kenny Lofton in Cleveland, I remember. And then he came back in 2007, and I remember that.
yeah.
Um but yeah, for most like our growing up, like the time that we remember most as our childhood, yeah, Grady Sizemore was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you remember the Indians at that time, man. There
Yeah.
wasn't really much to cheer about, but god damn it, we had Grady
It
Sizemore.
was Grady Sizemore. We had CC, Cliff Lee eventually. We had Victor Martinez and Travis Hafner.
Yeah.
Were
Oh,
the
and don't forget Vic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You did say Victor
Yeah, I
Martinez.
did say Victor Martinez, yeah. Were the
Yeah,
main
and
five guys, at least from
I
what I
think
remember.
oh yeah. Um, I always think about what could have been if he stayed healthy
Mm,
because the team that we had 2007, we were a game away from the World Series.
yep.
And then that was the start of Grady Sizemore. That was, before Cliff Lee became Cliff Lee, and Victor
Mm,
Martinez was really starting to round into his prime. We really had a really exciting young team that I think
mm-hmm.
was really poised to make the next step.
Yeah, because when you think
But
about it, that 2017, we had the pitching lineup was literally CC, Cliff Lee, uh,
Fausto Carmona,
Fausto Carmona, which, by the
not his
way,
real
wasn't
name,
even
but
his real name.
yeah,
For
or
those who
or
don't
his age.
remember that. Westbrook was in there, and Paul Bird, if I remember correctly.
Paul Bird, man, that man, I loved watching that man pitch so much. When I played baseball, I primarily pitched,
Mm.
and I kind of modeled my windup after Paul Bird. I just thought it was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because he
yeah,
was
man,
so
Paul
like
Bird,
old school wind up too when you think about it.
yeah,
Because he reminded us
loved it.
Bob Feller a little bit.
Yep, yep.
So and then
Oh yeah, don't forget about Sin Soo Choo.
oh yeah, wait, what
Yeah,
was he on the 2017?
yep, yeah. I'm looking at the roster now. We had a young Ben Francisco and Ryan Garco.
Oh yeah.
Aaron Laffey was on the team, a young Aaron Laffey.
Oh, that team was such a good team that
Yeah,
they had something special there and then blew it up in 2008.
which the trades that we made then kind of
Mm,
you know really ended up panning out because that
yeah.
that really laid the foundation to what we saw during the Tito years. But
Mm,
yeah, I mean,
but
what?
doesn't mean that it didn't sting a little bit.
Ooh, absolutely. I mean, you think if Sizemore didn't get injured, I think 2008 would have been a lot better than 81 and 81.
Mm,
Probably would have made another, definitely would have made another trip to the playoffs, and who knows how far we could have gone then.
yeah.
And I think in that case, I don't know if you trade, like you already let CC go at that time.
Well, they
I
traded
don't
him to
know if you get rid
Milwaukee
of, yeah,
because you have to
I
remember
don't
they
know if
traded Cliff Lee and CC like not
back
too
to back
far.
years,
Yeah.
but if Sizemore was healthy and we got back to the playoffs in 2008, we're competitive again in 2009. One, if we made the playoffs in 2008, they wouldn't have traded CC mid-season.
Mm,
And going into 2009, coming off of another playoff run, I don't think they trade Cliff Lee either, which means we could have potentially seen the best of CC and Cliff Lee
mm-hmm.
as well as the best um of Sizemore. And I think that could have been really special because man, that rotation would have been ridiculous,
Yeah.
especially with the young names that were starting to come up in the 2010s.
Oh, 100%. And it kind of just brings us back to if didn't things that made him the biggest what if didn't happen, what were the possibilities for his career? And honestly, at the rate he was going, he could have been you could argue a first ballot Hall of Famer if things were on pace that he kind of set up for himself.
Oh yeah,
Because we mentioned the statistics, and there was the potential there. Because he, in what, 4 seasons, had over 100, like, multiple steals. So, yeah.
yeah. I mean, he truly was on the path to becoming, I think, one of the best players of his generation.
Mm-hmm.
And whether he would have saw the best of that success with the Indians, I hope he would have. But who's to say he wouldn't have gone on elsewhere to potentially an even bigger market and really became a face of the league.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's why we are discussing this in the first place.
Yeah,
So,
but yeah,
it's just
oddly enough,
crazy to
with the
think about.
baseball junkie that I am, this is oddly something that I think about like all the time. I think about the Game 7 of the 2016 World Series every day.
Mm-hmm.
And the what if with Grady Sizemore pops into my head
And the
more
what if,
than probably more than it should.
probably, and the what
Yeah,
if with Travis Hafner, too. The short stint that he
yeah,
had going for him.
yeah, yeah. My prime pronk,
Mm-hmm.
man, that was special. That was in our lifetime, the Indians haven't really had a ton of true. I'm gonna scare the shit out of living or of opposing pitchers, and I'm gonna hit 50 home runs a year, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna laugh in your face when I do it. We haven't had a lot of those guys, and Hafner was that guy, man. That was
Mm-hmm.
exciting.
Yeah, because it was between him and Big Poppy of Boston, kind of
Yeah,
going to town on that stuff.
yeah. Fun times, man. Fun times. I miss it.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, to kind of round off on this episode, any final statements you'd like to make?
No, other than wish he would have been healthier. I would have loved to see what Prime Sizemore would have been.
Same, 100%.
Maybe
Um,
we can boot up the old Xboxes and put on like MLB The Show 007 or something like that, and just
yeah.
turn
I.
off injuries.
Yep. Anyways, thank you for watching another episode of What Happened To with a what if twist to it for Deep Dive Sports. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.